Right, I'm Rasheed, Ogunlaru, coach speaker author. Pleasure to be back here with Michael Jacobsen, author of Business of Creativity and entrepreneur and business mentor. I'm going to actually let you introduce yourself because I want to talk to you a little bit about yourself, your life and your story. And it's always a little bit scary when you're introducing something and you're saying about them. And maybe it's best to just let you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in your journey.
Sure. Well, look, I grew up in a very business-oriented family. I grew up in an entertainment family, so I was exposed to business and to entertainment, to showbiz, to creativity, pretty much from the time that I was born.
So what kind of stuff were the family involved in? What, the performers?
They were initially, my father was initially a performer, and he and his brother had a very successful band in Australia. And then they moved, well, my father in particular moved to behind the scenes, behind the camera, so to speak, into large-scale concert promotion, special event production, television, and other aspects and other investments in the entertainment space. So I was exposed to that from the time that I was born. Yeah. My interest, always from as early as I can remember, was in being in business itself. And I always loved anything to do with business. And I remember very clearly I had a business studies teacher when I was in school. It was around close to the end of school. I was around 17 or so, 16, 17. And he loved business. He was a very wealthy guy, and he was teaching because he liked teaching. But he used to trade the stock market, and he used to do all sorts of investments on the stock market and with equities on the ASX, the Australian Stock Exchange. So I used to always arrive at class a little bit early and stay back a little bit late, and he used to start to talk about me.
Yeah, I read this bit in your book. I read this, remember reading this bit in your book, and I was really struck by that because I just think there's so many things about that are interesting, and I know that we were just kind of introducing you and your story, but it's fascinating. Creative family on the one hand, entertainment industry, and then it's interesting that you want to be involved in kind of business, but you've got business and you're arriving early and you're there late and learning about those things. Now that is smart. That is so smart, and it's one of the things that so often we don't do. And if somebody's really enthusiastic, how powerful that is. I was encouraging somebody the other day. They think about setting up a business, and they know somebody owns a business, and they're a full adult. And I was saying to get them to mentor them, but how smart of you to recognise at that age. Do you think that has played a major part in helping you to achieve the things that you've achieved today in business by actually finding out, really going beneath the skin and understanding how he did trading and so on and all that kind of stuff? Presumably that must have played a massive part.
It played a huge role and played a huge part in springboarding me into being involved in business, because after speaking with him, not only he didn't say, well, buy this or buy that, he would explain the overall rationale behind stock market investment, and basically, taught me in between classes how to invest and how to trade. So I started to do it myself. I was able to get my hands on some money. I started to do some trading myself, and of course, with trading, you're not always profitable. But at the end of the first year, I think by the time I was around 18 years old, I was up on the year and had some good investments, and I was elated. So I thought, this is actually great. This is fun. It's enjoyable, and you get to be exposed to all sorts of different companies. You get to research all sorts of different companies, and then actually trade on them and trade in and out. And so it was just a lot of fun, and that then led me to becoming involved in. I studied business and finance and so on, and banking and economics was all part of what I studied. But it was a business degree, and then I went on to work for a bank and was involved with stockbroking and with buying and selling shares, but from a stockbroking perspective.
So this stuff must be so valuable when it comes to running a business, because I guess the thing about business, and we're here actually at the moment within the British Library's Business Intellectual Property Centre. There's so many different aspects of business, isn't it, that it must be so hard to learn. So the fact that you actually understood from the investment point of view, from the bank's point of view and other, must be being invaluable, I guess, with hindsight, given the things that you've done since.
Yeah, it really gave me that hard business understanding. And when I say hard, I mean the understanding of the nuts and bolts of how the numbers operate, of how business operates, and and how the global financial markets operate.
And did you have a sense at that point of what you wanted to do? Because you were family successful in entertainment, you were interested in business. Did you have a sense of what it is that you wanted to to do? Was it always about running a business, or were you just learning or just following where your interests?
I was just loving. I love doing stockbroking, and I loved investment on the market, both as my job and also privately. I was doing it within the capacity of what you can do when you're doing stockbroking. There's certain things you can and can't trade, but I was still doing some investments myself, and also I started to do then some angel investments. It started in actual private companies, and there's not a strong angel sector in Australia, but so I was able to be exposed to quite a lot of really interesting companies. And what I really just loved, I loved business, and I just loved meeting people, talking with people, working with them, investing, teaching them, learning from them, and investing in their businesses, and then watching the growth trajectory of the businesses, not just on account of the money, but on account of the vision, the entrepreneurs, and the people involved. So I love that overall, the process.
Over time you became involved, and there was a link back again in terms of entertainment, in terms of being involved in entertainment venues. I'm keen for you to tell us a little bit about that, but I'm also curious to find out, was there a temptation to go into entertainment? Was I, from the family point of view, or from your own point of view, were you keen to sing and perform or to do anything like that, or was that just not on your radar? Because again, it's interesting. Very often if somebody's come from, for example, a legal background, there might be a pressure to, hey, you're going to be in a profession or whatever. And I guess maybe perhaps if somebody's come from a creative background, there might be that somewhere that maybe I should, or how was that?
Yeah, if you heard me sing, you probably wouldn't say that. and I think if I wanted to send the company bankrupt, probably to perform to a large crowd and have them exit within 5 minutes probably would have been the best way to do it. But no, I love dealing with people and that side of things. But I was always, I love the coordination side of it, and I just loved entertainment. Even though I had my own jobs and my own businesses that I was involved in, I was always exposed to what my family was doing. There's always many exciting shows and events and things that were on, and so I was very lucky that I was able to have all of those wonderful facets of my life at the one time.
Got it. So tell us, how did then because I understand that you were involved in owning arenas and so on, and then before becoming involved in when Dirty Dancing, the rights for that emerged to be able to take that to stage, or whatever, you became involved in that, bought that. Tell us a little bit about the journey. What happened from that particular time, from that particular time when you had first of all studied, and then you were beginning to you began working for banks, and then you began to become involved in businesses. Tell us how things unfolded for you.
Well, I got to a point where I had some wonderful investments, and I was really enjoying the trading. But some exciting opportunities arose for me to collaborate with what my family's business was doing, and looking back in hindsight, even though I hadn't necessarily thought about it that way at the time, was an opportunity to merge the business experience that I had and the investment experience that I had with the creativity that they had, wonderfully creative, entrepreneurial people, and there was an opportunity for them to slightly change the direction of their business, and to collaborate on the building and development of entertainment arenas, and stadiums in Australia and New Zealand and other places, and so that was an opportunity to mix property business with the underlying entertainment. So it was a great marriage. So we came together and collaborated, and then I became CEO and chairman of many of those arenas.
And I'm curious about that particular bit, because again, I read a bit in the book that touched on that. Where did the seed of that idea come from? Had the things that the family began, from being on stage to behind the scenes, there been more and more of an interest in that side? Or was it the kind of thing that you, having had experience over there in property and business, was saying, well, hang on a minute, why don't we do this? Or was it a bit of... It
turned out to be an organic conversation. I was away, I think it was in Frankfurt in Germany. My father was there, and my cousin and some other family members, I think. And we were there, and I was. They were there on business, doing business together. I was there on the tail end of a holiday, and I was also doing some stuff. Frankfurt's obviously a hotbed of the financial markets, and one of the financial capitals of Europe, if not the world. So I was doing some stuff with that, and it was just one of those things where you're away with people for 2 weeks, being exposed on a day-to-day basis to what everybody's doing, and the organic conversations just start over the breakfast buffet in the hotel, in the day spa, and just things just come together, and we just started to say, what if this, what if that, it just became an organic conversation, and then by the time we returned to Australia, everything just sort of was mapped out in a broad sense.
Yeah, fantastic. So then, presumably that conversation ended up being a fortuitous conversation, because then you got involved in arenas. So tell us, how did you get from the arenas to then Dirty Dancing and then to the UK? So just fill us in on because I guess that whole period of time must have been all sorts of exciting, crazy exciting, fascinating things must have happened. Tell us.
Yeah, lots of exciting things happened. Around 2003, an opportunity came up for us to buy the global rights to put Dirty Dancing, the movie, on stage, and it was a matter of dealing with the lady Eleanor Bergstein, who had written the book, which is basically the script of a movie, and also Lionsgate Films, who own the name Dirty Dancing. So we were able to do financial deals with both those parties. An opportunity just arose through our contacts that we knew.
What happens there? I mean, just that, because some people might be curious about that. Was something like a big film, and that people might know? Was the thing that was on the table specifically to take it to the stage, or was it something more just about the rights, more generally, to be able to use it in different formats? What was actually in it?
It was basically to take it to the stage, and there'd been discussions between Eleanor and Lionsgate and various other parties for some time, and it was a point that they wanted to. They felt that because it was such a successful movie, in my interpretation of what they said anyway, such a successful movie, and it was something that was evergreen. People continue to love it across generations. That they felt that to put it in 3D, to put it in a format which is, I guess, what theatre is. It's a three-dimensional touch and feel situation. They felt that was just the right time from their perspective. So we were there able to put together that deal to put the rights, to buy the rights, and then we did the first production in Australia around 2004, and the second production, simply because the theatre became available sooner than we had expected, the second production launched in London around 2005, 2006. Perhaps there was one in Germany in between that time. There was quite a few, so I've lost track of it. But London launched on the West End around 2006.
Well, there's something fascinating about there, and there's I'm wondering, again, in your life and in your career so far, how much, is the classic question, was planning, and how much was it kind of fortuitous of what happened? Because there's a lovely moment where you talked about the particular time with a blend of having an entertainment background, an interest in business and property had emerged. And then it's extraordinary how this particular moment where the rights for this particular hugely well-known film to take to theatre had emerged, and having already that mindfulness about the entertainment and so on, and obviously venues where they would be played. How much do you think, are you a man who believes in, do you think that everything's planning? Are you somebody who believes in fate or just chance or just spotting opportunities? What did you feel? I'm wondering, what did you feel at that moment? Did you think, there's something here that's clearly got a name on it? Or is it something, again, only in hindsight? I'm just curious about these things, isn't it? Because often in business, there are those things that someone's just got a hunch for, or is it something that we've been planning for our whole life? I just want to get your sense about
Well, I think a lot of people call it different things, whether they call it a hunch or gut feel or fate or whatever. I think that, all of those things together play a big part, and played a big part in the acquisition of this project. I mean, all of the key parties involved, from our family's perspective and from the company's perspective, we just knew that it was the right thing. Right. And I suppose, one can say, well, it's easy to say, it was a successful movie, it's a successful brand. Yes, that's true, but in show business there's never any guarantees. Yeah. So,
and there have been some things that have gone the other way.
They've gone pear-shaped, yes, and it had been, I guess 15 years or more since between the movie and when this was coming out. So there's always some commercial risk, and without risk you can't have rewards. So we were aware of that side of things, but we all just had a really good gut feel. We had a great, we all got on very well with Eleanor Bergstein, the writer, and she's an amazing woman, incredibly passionate about Dirty Dancing, and she lives and breathes it and loves it to this day. 20 odd years after she wrote it, Lionsgate Films, we had a wonderful relationship with the people that we dealt with there. So there was nice people everywhere, and everything just felt right. The stars were aligned. I personally believe that good luck is opportunity meeting preparedness, as they say, as the wise people say. And so I think that the preparedness is that where you sit down and plan. The opportunity is partially of your own making, partially fate, and just things coming into line. And sometimes an amazing opportunity in business, it's got to be a mixture. You can't have wonderful opportunities, you can't exploit them if you're not prepared. On the other hand, if you're prepared and you sit behind your desk your whole life and don't get out and meet people, well, you probably never get any opportunities.
Well, I think that's extraordinary what you're saying, and I'm wondering, as I understand, it's very successful, opened in a number of different territories. In that moment where all sorts of things must be happening, you must be busy on several continents at the same time, is there something that's kind of scary and woe-ish about this? Is there a bit where you're kind of thinking, hang on a minute, you're wanting opportunities to happen in the scale and size that you're kind of comfortable with, or are you kind of the kind of person who's happy to kind of surf wherever it is that they lead? Were there those kind of thoughts?
Yes, those kind of thoughts definitely came into it. I mean, it was an enormous. Once it launched in Australia, and it was immediately clear that it was successful there, and that it received a lot of international accolades and response from people in the entertainment business, which is quite rare because it's a tough business, and people aren't overly lavish with their praise or their support in showbiz. So once we received that, we knew that something successful was probably going on. And so then the production did launch in Germany, I recall now, in 2005, and then a theatre became available in London in 2006. So there was already different things. So what we immediately thought is we need to work out what things are we going to do ourselves and what things are we going to license on to other partners. So we licensed on in a joint venture arrangement where we own the rights, but we licensed the European rights to Stage Entertainment, which is a global entertainment conglomerate based in Holland, and so they then looked after Germany and dealt with Europe in strict conjunction with us, but they took that responsibility. So that was something that, particularly with non-English speaking markets, that was something that was then off our hands. And we focused on London.
And presumably, with all your business savvy and so on, this knowledge of the different options there, because you could have also decided to do it, must have been very useful to presumably.
Well, I would like to think so, and I think that's where many creatives can fall down. You've got to have some business contribution, because when it comes to doing license agreements and details and so on, the fly in the ointment can be anywhere in all of those pages in the big documents, and it's the one that's going to come back to haunt you in 10 years if it's wrong, mistakes are made in the beginning. So yeah, it was once again a good example of all of those skills coming together. It was very much a team effort from all of the people in my family, all of whom had different skills, and so it was a really wonderful marriage at that point to bring those things together. But yes, then London took off and became immediately successful and opened with the highest advance box office of any show that's played on the West End. So it was a very humbling experience, as well as exciting, but also somewhat daunting and overwhelming, because to go in with that accolade that everybody in the global show business world and all of the trade publications, everybody was talking about it, from Hollywood to the West End to Broadway. It was a bit like, take a deep breath, we've got to get it right.
Well, presumably there must have also been, I want to kind of move on to talk about things that since, but was there a moment also, you talked about humbling, was there a moment also in pride? Because I guess and you'd said it before, from being brought up or born in and around entertainment, it must be also nice, those moments, because we know when you're a creative performer any time, there are ups and there are downs, so many things that will... Was that quite a proud, also quite touching moment for you and the family, and I guess something that, a kind of an experience that was kind of shared, was that is involved in business and involved in entertainment? I'd imagine that must have been quite a quite touching kind of moment, or quite proud moment as well.
Yes, launching the show on the West End and having it launch as a success, and then continue to be a success for its entire run was a moment of great. It was a stretch of years of great pride, and also it was humbling. I think you have to view it that way, and you have to really be grateful that you've got something that has been such a success, and that people clearly enjoy going to see so much, and that's a wonderful thing about it. That's the interesting thing as well about a creative business. No one person can take credit for it. There's no CEO sitting at the top that can say this was all my doing, because it takes everybody. It took all of us, and all of our skills, and it also took, you got the writer, you got the directors, the choreographers, the wonderful cast, the stars of the show, everybody. It's a real team effort.
Well, I like
it's intangible but tangible at the same time.
Well, I like that, and I think one of the things that's threaded throughout this conversation, where we've been talking about your life and your career, is that thing about the people, and the right people, the right people involved in the whole business process and so on. I want to kind of just talk about, I guess then something, or over the years, something fascinating then happened, because then I really admire those people who then suddenly decide, okay, that's all very well, but I could go off and do something else. And I don't know the details of this, but from what I understand, from the bits that I've read, you sold from being involved in Dirty Dancing, and I think that from some of the venue kind of businesses, you decided to move to a whole new country in the UK, and you decided to move away from that and to do new things and to allow yourself space just for a period of time to consider what you wanted to do next. That's one of the things that in the human psyche I really, really admire. And tell me a little bit about that. Tell us very briefly what happened, but tell us a bit about that, because I'm fascinated by that, because I know that when we had a chat, I think there was a particular point where you kind of stopped it and then just gave yourself time to think about what next, because sometimes we get in business, we're thinking about achieving this or that, and then
I think you've always got to take time out. You've always got to know when to leave the party. You don't want to be the last person to leave the party, at least I don't. And I think that there came a time and a place where all of these things were largely very successful. Dirty Dancing in particular was very successful, and we had different people living in different parts of the world, different family members living in different parts of the world, and it just became clear that it was the right time for certain parts of us to exit a lot of the investments, to cash up, to settle up, and to cash out, basically. Some of my family members stayed in certain businesses. I exited all of the investments, and to me that was it was the right time to draw a line in the sand and to do that. Being an investor by nature anyway, I don't particularly have, even though I do get very emotionally attached to what I'm involved in, I also think that if you actually want to make money out of things, and if you're doing it as a business as well, you've got to have a fairly aggressive timeline. So 5 to 7 years is enough for me. Well,
as you mentioned that, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think that this brings up another thing. Isn't it fascinating when it comes to something like business? Everyone's got their different drivers, and I was curious, you can ask about that. And you said, well, as an investor, there's a bit of you that presumably you enjoy the thing of starting something, seeing how it could do, grow and nurture, and moving on. Is that part of what excites you? Well,
I was ready for new challenges. Right. I love, and my skill set is, I love building the businesses, and I love growing them.
Right.
And then, I like to sit on the boards and monitor them, but also there's a part of me that is looking as well to the new challenges. I'm an entrepreneur, so I was looking to new businesses and new growth businesses. I'd already, so this was a discussion with all of the family, and that was really what flowed out of it. So I also had quite a lot of business in Europe anyway, in the UK, in parts of the US, and in South Africa. So it made a lot of sense for me to be based in Europe, and to have a base in Europe and have a base in the UK. And so once all of the dust had settled with exiting those investments, to be based
to
be based in the Northern Hemisphere is excellent, and I must say the United Kingdom is a brilliant place full of wonderful opportunities, wonderful entrepreneurs, and all of Europe is to me, in spite of its economic problems, which will pass as they always do, is a place of great opportunity, great growth, and just an exotic, fascinating, cultural, multicultural mix of people, which I love dealing with. I love mixing with every day.
And was it all of those factors, therefore, that led you to the UK?
All of those factors led me to the UK, and yes, all of those factors led me to the UK.
So tell us then about, and I guess then so when was that period of time of moving? We're
talking around 2009.
Right, so now we happen to be here at a time as you've just launched this book for creative businesses, and I know now that you're a mentor, and you work with a range of business owners. You've also been involved as a speaker for creative startup organisations and so on. Tell us a little bit about life now, and where you're at now, and what excites you now. Tell us a little bit about that.
My passion really is, as well as being for business, my passion is for working with people, for helping people, for teaching people, and for trying to use whatever skills I have to elevate their businesses. And I genuinely love dealing with other business people. I love entrepreneurs. I love business, and I love looking at all of these different opportunities. And there's a very different headspace that comes with dealing with businesses as a non-exec director or as a mentor. It's basically the same thing, just depending upon the different stage of the company. If it's a startup or growing business, you call it a mentor. If it's a more advanced business, they'll approach you as a non-exec. So it's the same type of thing, really, except there's some legal differences, but really it's the same. And I just find that is a very rewarding way to spend your time, and it's something where you have a different headspace to that of an investor. The people are more honest with you. They're not trying to pitch to you. They're not trying to prove anything. They're there, warts and all, trying to improve their business, and you're there with good, bad, ugly, indifferent from your past. Bringing that co-aligned situation to bear to steer them through and to improve their businesses.
And also, I think one of the things that just struck me as you were saying that, I'd imagine again, it's another one of those wonderful moments that brings together the blend of the business acumen and being creative, because I would imagine in that role you can really be quite creative in terms of how it is that you work with someone, because there's a fluid space, headspace, isn't it? So you can bring both things to the bear, as well as the fact that the people aspects.
Oh, very much so. Yes, very much so. I mean, you bring all of those different those different creative strategies to bear. I work with businesses across various sectors. The creative sector and digital media is a predominant one, but I do work with companies in property. I work with companies in food and beverage. I work with companies mainly in sectors that I've had experience and or success in. I'm not a jack of all trades. I'm not one of those people who says I can do work in any sector. There's certain sectors I wouldn't have a clue about, and even though business principles are the same, I'm not going to go there. But they're the predominant sectors that I'm dealing with at any one time. I sat on the board of a very large food and beverage company, one of the internal boards of a large food and beverage company out of Australia called Gloria Jean's Coffees. I also worked on all of their development throughout Europe. So I've done a lot of work over the years in food and beverage, and also, as I said, in property. But yes, so it's a broad mix of companies that I'm working with.
And I can't close this interview without asking, I guess there's a couple of things I want to ask you. A, is there a particular, ideal project that might appear and you think, that's got my name on it? Is there something that at the moment that you're kind of looking for, or to something that to land past your desk? What might the ingredients of that kind of be?
The ingredients are, I'm still doing a lot of my own projects, as well as working with other people's businesses, and I'm still involved in property projects and other more active as opposed to passive investments. But the main ingredients really has got to be, it all comes down to, the first thing is the person or people, and the story or vision. That's the first thing. I can't prescribe what exactly that will be, but when I see it, I know it, and that's really, to me, of course. Then ultimately the numbers have to stack up. If it's something I'm taking on as an entrepreneur as opposed to a mentor, but the story, the vision of the people, it's not overstating the point to say that the people is everything, and that's ultimately all we have to deal with in this world. So you've got to believe in it, understand it's got to touch you, and what touches me might not touch somebody else, and whatever. So it's all different.
Brilliant. And I just want to ask, what would be the it's the kind of, I guess, there's the legacy kind of question. What would you, when all's said and done, would you, either for yourself, that how you would ultimately want things to look, or how you would like people to kind of comment? Is there a kind of a sense of that? Very often, in different ways, different people, I guess, have got a sense of, some people it's okay, by the end, I want this and this in place, or I just want people to feel that, what's that about for you? Because I guess that there's been so many different kind of facets to that. Is that answer that question in any way?
I think we're all interdependent in this world. In the business world and the personal world, everybody is interdependent. Countries, people, empires, everything's interdependent. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think that one has got to, I think that it's important. What's important to me is to try and contribute to people's lives more than you take. We all take because we're interdependent. We need things. We need food. We need water. We need shelter. We take. But to try and contribute to people's lives and to try and enrich people's lives using whatever skills we have. Everybody has different skills. Somebody's wonderful singer, which, as you know, I'm not. But some people are wonderful singers. Some people are wonderful dancers. Some people are wonderful scientists, business people, whatever. Everybody has different skills, and you've got to know what they are and use them to contribute. That's why we're given the skills. Whoever gives them to us, whoever people believe gives them to us, doesn't matter. We've got to use them to contribute. And I think it's not always easy because we've all got bills to pay. We've all got annoying things that happen in our lives which can alter our moods and make us cranky and interfere with the good work that we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, I think that's something that drives me. You try and just leave a little bit more on the table, on people's collective tables than you take away.
I think that is so brilliantly said. I couldn't agree with you more. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. All the best with all these exciting new ventures, and it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. I'm going to leave you to smile, so turn to the camera, and here's your book.
Thank you.
Thank you.